Hello, Mark Grant here, Chief Executive Officer of the Australian Institute for Teaching and School Leadership. I'd like to begin with an acknowledgement of country and pay my respects to Aboriginal people, past and present, and any Aboriginal people who might be with us today. Thanks for joining me in the online world, one we're getting all too used to around the world, but in particular in parts of Australia at the moment. The question of how to boost learning outcomes of students through better leadership and teaching is such an important one, and of course it's central to AITSL's very purpose. It's well established that quality teaching and school leadership are the biggest in-school factors that can influence student outcomes. Such a raft of strong evidence to support that view. And teachers who are passionate about helping their students learn, who develop strong relationships with their students, and who apply evidence-based teaching strategies to take action to improve their practice have such a significantly positive impact on learning and other outcomes. And of course, effective principals and others in leadership positions make such a significant difference too, with evidence showing that those who are highly effective can advance student achievement by somewhere between 2 and 7 months of learning in any one school year. And this understanding is reflected in AITSL's vision to promote excellence in teaching and school leadership across Australia, the TSL of AITSL, if you like. We understand how important quality teaching and school leadership is and the impact that it can and does have to students day in and day out. AITSL was established back in 2010 to provide national leadership in promoting excellence in the profession of teaching and school leadership. Boosting learning and other outcomes for students is absolutely core throughout the quality teaching and the school leadership, the T, the S and the L. AITSL exists to actively improve teaching and leadership across all Australian schools and early childhood settings, and it is the national government body with countrywide reach across Australia. Our work is grounded fundamentally in the combination of evidence and professional practice. We're a Commonwealth-owned, not-for-profit company funded by the Australian government, and the Australian government is the sole member of that company, represented by the Minister for Education. We report directly to that minister, and we report also to Education Minister meetings, the collective group of all jurisdictional education ministers. We also work cooperatively with the major employers across the 3 sectors, the government sector, Catholic sector and independent sector of schooling, and various federal departments that relate to our work. In terms of the way we work, it's certainly not by mandate or legislation or regulation. It's by influence. All of our work is grounded in evidence, and we engage strongly with stakeholders around that evidence. From an impact and achievement point of view, we create policies and tools and resources, and we reach across the profession in terms of publications of those policies, tools and resources, and also to keep in touch with the profession in terms of needs and wants for the profession. And driving all this work is a focus on impact, the learning and the other outcomes for students. To help teachers be the best they can be, it's important that we're clear about what quality teaching is. What does it look like? In Australia, we have this clarity through the teaching standards, developed and embedded across states and territories since 2010. Broad and comprehensive, 7 standards collectively acknowledge the complexity and professional nature of the role and have a key focus on impact on student outcomes, learning as well as the broader whole child, and wellbeing outcomes that are so important to achieving the goals in Australia's Mapartly Declaration, particularly that all young Australians become confident and creative individuals, become successful lifelong learners, and become active and informed members of the community. The standards provide a shared language around what it means to be a great Australian teacher and demonstrate a pathway of career progression and increasing impact on outcomes from the graduate career stage through to the lead career stage. This is a critical foundation for boosting outcomes for young learners in every Australian school. And to build on this foundation and for the standards to have real and lasting impact, every Australian teacher needs to be supported to apply them to their practice and in real context. And that real impact comes when this application is focused on professional growth, helping teachers understand their current practice against the standards and what actions they can take to grow their practice further. It's about developing teachers at all career stages, from induction to ongoing professional learning. Look at the high quality professional learning findings and teacher effectiveness work that AITSL's in the midst of now. And it's about starting as early as possible in a teacher's career to make that important difference. In terms of initial teacher education and induction, Getting the right teachers in the right places to ensure the connection between preparation and employment, and ensuring quality induction starts as a teacher enters the classroom and continues for a sustained period of time. And the relationship between schools and the ITE providers can be strengthened through the involvement of those providers in the induction of teachers in those first 2 years in the classroom. Increasing the involvement of ITE providers in the induction of teachers in the first 2 years of employment supports the understanding of the application of the skills and knowledge that is required following graduation. And providers and schools must also have a shared understanding on what a classroom-ready graduate looks like. ITE providers cannot prepare graduates for all contexts. What they can do is prepare the graduates to apply skills flexibly to meet different contexts. Schools can provide a contextual induction that is fit for purpose and focuses on the broader school community, not just on the classroom. Very important to make sure that there's a fit for purpose between the teacher and the school's community. In terms of developing teachers, AITSL has developed and implemented the Graduate to Proficient Australian Guidelines for Teacher Induction into the Profession, which jurisdictions, teacher regulatory authorities and education settings commenced using back in 2017. Despite the general awareness of those guidelines, evidence indicates that beginning teachers, and particularly those who start in casual and relief roles, are not always offered formal induction in schools, which presents an opportunity for AITSL to address this to better support early career teachers across different contexts and different employment types. AITSL developed the My Induction mobile application to provide mobile expert advice that better supports beginning teachers in schools and early childhood settings through their development from the graduate to the proficient career stages in the teacher standards, the condition for full registration. My Induction offers relevant resources, practical information and activities such as quizzes, tips, simulations and challenges, as well as a wellbeing tracker that support beginning teachers to assess and track their professional wellbeing. It also leverages the expertise of nationally certified, highly accomplished and lead teachers to provide answers and share their knowledge and experiences with newly appointed and inducted teachers. Research demonstrates that high-quality induction has a dramatic effect on the transition process and can lead to graduate teachers having a material impact on learner outcomes. Developing teachers within and across career stages, teaching effectiveness aspects, AITSL's work with that aims to build on research conducted by the University of Melbourne and develop evidence-informed tools and resources that will strengthen teacher agency and support teachers to improve their teaching practice and student impact, that will enable teachers to evaluate and reflect on their practice to develop professionally and increase the impact on student outcomes, that will encourage teachers to utilise student indicators and data in the classroom to assess their impact on students' learning, and to enable and empower school leaders to create and sustain a growth-centric culture that supports the development of teacher effectiveness at all career stages through high-quality evaluations. AITSL is also scoping a national engagement strategy to promote a national definition of teacher evaluations that strengthen and increase national consistency in current perceptions, and that's at the system, school and teacher level. Through improved teacher effectiveness and ongoing professional growth and development of teachers, student outcomes are improved. The application of the teacher standards needs to sit within a high-quality professional learning culture, and the described elements of the cycle identify professional learning need and the use of the standards are critical there. Select and undertake learning, apply and refine the learning, and of course evaluate the overall impact from that learning. AITSL continues to develop, refine and promote online resources and tools to support high quality professional learning for teachers and school leaders. And these include a growing set of resources that support teachers at all stages of the high quality professional learning cycle, including guides on annotating evidence, video case studies, online professional learning, mentoring, and using social media for professional learning purposes. Development of an evidence base underpinning AITSL's work on high quality professional learning to support teachers' selection of high quality professional learning. Have a look at the evidence toolkit. Developing professional learning for more experienced teachers and a platform for them to provide advice to their early career teacher colleagues, especially those who may find it difficult to access support from some other teachers. And that's where the My Teaching Advice app comes in. an interactive resource to help teachers review their teaching practices against the teaching standards and plan professional development, so the teacher self-assessment tool, and conducting targeted consultation and research into 3 specific cohorts that face additional challenges for professional learning. And those 3 being the early childhood teachers, the casual relief teachers, and teachers in rural, regional and remote contexts. AITSL is scoping and developing guides to improve accessibility of high quality professional learning to these 3 cohorts. In terms of understanding impact and to have an impact at the student, class and school level, the critical role of formative assessment, but going beyond literacy and numeracy to other learning domains, comes to the fore here. In terms of wellbeing, the whole learner to support the learning of students, informed by COVID links, for instance, trauma-informed learning work, etc. But in terms of formative assessment, AITSL's engaged with teachers and school leaders directly and with the evidence in research literature to better understand the critical role of formative assessment. Formative assessment is an adaptive process where assessment evidence of student learning is used by teachers to modify their instructional practices and by students to adjust their learning strategies. An assessment functions formatively to the extent that evidence gathered during learning is interpreted and used by teachers and students to make better teaching and learning decisions. Formative assessment can improve learning outcomes in classrooms and across whole schools by helping teachers understand where students are in their learning, draw conclusions and make informed decisions about how and what to teach next. And teachers can use a range of formative assessment strategies to evaluate their students' learning and the impact of their teaching. By continually adjusting teaching accordingly, it ensures that teaching meets the students' immediate needs. In terms of wellbeing, AITSL released a spotlight on the role of school leadership in challenging times. This was aimed to equip schools and their leaders with a toolkit of skills and approaches that are reactive and proactive to better support the wellbeing of the school community. The importance of students feeling connected to others and experiencing safe and trusting relationships is critical to their wellbeing. And the spotlight highlights the critical role school leaders play in building a positive learning environment where the school community and students in particular feel included, connected, safe and respected, especially during periods of uncertainty. From the perspective of trauma-informed learning, AITSL's committed to supporting teachers to create safe learning environments for students and educators, secure the full participation for all students, and embrace inclusion in education and teacher education. AITSL is the custodian of the standards. It's undertaken a stocktake of the standards between late 2019 and late 2020, covering both the teacher standards and the Australian Professional Standard for Principals, known as the Principal Standard. The purpose of the stocktake was to assess stakeholder appetite for changes to the teacher and principal standards to ensure they remain current and fit for purpose. The report on the outcomes of the stocktake covers areas including early childhood teacher inclusivity, emerging developments in teacher practice since the standards were established, and support for schools to understand and embed trauma-informed learning in their work. Findings affirmed that trauma-informed learning is well captured within the teacher standards. Certification, the career pathways that are needed to grow and retain the best, sees AITSL develop the highly accomplished and lead teacher impact findings that expertise does indeed make a difference. Formal recognition of exemplary teachers can make an important contribution to the formality of teaching and leadership in schools. Australia needs well-defined career pathways for teachers in order to attract high-quality candidates to initial teacher education, but as well as to grow and retain our high-performing teachers. Certification at the highly accomplished or lead career stages provides teachers with the affirmation and recognition for the quality of their teaching and allows them to progress their careers while remaining in the classroom. Expert teachers have a far greater impact on student outcomes when compared to experienced teachers. They also help to build collective teacher efficacy within a school, a factor that we know from John Hattie's work in visible learning has one of the highest possible effects on student achievement. Embedding clear career pathways like HALT certification is Australia's best method to attract, develop and recognise expert teachers and ultimately improve student outcomes. Research conducted by ISQ in 2018 and again in 2021 around the impact of HALTs found that certified teachers have a positive impact both in their classroom and across their school community, that Holt's acted as teacher leaders and play an important pedagogical leadership role in their school, that Holt's impacts students both in the classroom and across the school. They positively influence their peers and colleagues by modelling, mentoring and inspiring, and they help build the school community by leading and implementing school-wide priorities and building professional practice groups. Further, it confirmed that certification processes is viewed as one of the highly effective forms of professional development, and the teachers' reflective practices had the potential to spark school-wide transformation. As we've explored, sitting behind achieving growth in student outcomes is a teacher. A teacher who sees themselves in and applies in practice the teacher standards, who understands the whole learner, where they are at in their learning, draws conclusions and makes informed decisions about how and what to teach next, who reflects and evaluates their professional practice to strengthen their professional capabilities, and who recognises the environment which empowers each student to connect to others and supports their social development for their future role in the world, who creates an environment which allows each student to participate fully in the classroom and learning, and who identifies areas of high quality professional learning to support their own professional growth against the teacher standards, and finally, who works with other teachers to collectively build and use expertise. For a teacher to continue to evolve their practice and influence student outcomes on a grander scale, as with any profession, they need to be able to demonstrate their application of and seek recognition for their expertise. The teacher standards provide the roadmap for this, in progressing from proficient career stage to highly accomplished and lead teacher stages. And it is these experts, those working at the higher career stages, who are best placed to mentor and support graduate and proficient teachers to evolve their practice for the betterment of each student. And sitting behind these expert practitioners are school leaders, the people who demonstrate their effectiveness through setting a learning culture for students and teachers to thrive. And as we can see, it isn't an individual that creates a platform for each student to surpass their potential. It's a community of teachers and school leaders all playing their role. AITSL believes strongly in this and will continue to support and progress evidence-backed work to advance the national impact of the TSL in AITSL. Thanks so much for joining me today. If you have any questions about the presentation or anything AITSL could assist you, your school or your organisation with, please reach out. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of the event.